Okay, let's graph some piecewise functions. It's bigger. Okay, so when I'm graphing a piecewise function, I really like to graph the endpoints first. So for this first bit, how does the function behave at 2? Well, f of 2 is -2 times 2 plus 1. So that's -4. So that's -3. So when x is 2, y is -3. And that's a closed circle. Okay, that's going to be a closed circle because x is equal to at this point. Okay, now this is just a line with a slope of -2. So from this point, we're going to go, well, x is less than. So we want to go to the left. Okay, so a line with a negative slope goes this way. So we want to go up and to the left. So we're going to go up 2 and left 1, up 2 and left 1, up 2, left 1, up 2, left 1, etc. Okay, so our line is going to look like this. Now let's determine the behavior of this second bit at 2. So if x is 2, we're not going to evaluate this function at 2, but I just want to know what the endpoint looks like. So let's see. If x is 2, this bit is 5 times 2 minus 4. So that's 10 minus 4, which is 6. Okay, so the point 26 is going to be an open circle. Now this is a line with a slope of 5. So we'll go up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 is probably up here. And to the right 1. Okay, and so x is greater than, so this is going to go like that. Okay. All right, now let's evaluate this. When x is -4, I'm going to use this chunk right here because -4 is less than 2. So this is going to be -2 times -4 plus 1. -2 and -4 is 8, so this is 9. If x is 8, well, I'm going to use this chunk because 8 is greater than 2. So we're going to say that 5 times 8 minus 4, which is 36. And if x is 2, I'm going to use this chunk because x is equal to 2. We include that one. So this is going to be -2 times 2 plus 1, which is -3. Now this graph has 3 chunks. Okay, so let's look at this first one. If x is, how does this behave when x is 0? Well, if x is 0, 0 squared is 0, minus 1 is -1. So 0, -1 is going to be a closed circle. Okay, now this is not going to go to the right. It's only going to go to the left. So let's pick some values less than 0. If x is -1, we have -1 squared minus 1. -1 squared is 1 minus 1 is 0. Now let's check out f of -2. Well, that's -2 squared minus 1, which is 3, etc. So this bit right here is going to look like this, just a curve going up. Probably had it going a little too steep here, so let me adjust that. Yeah, good enough. All right, so now let's look at this next bit. Okay, so how is this going to behave at 0? Now, again, this portion is not defined at 0, but I just want to see what the endpoint is. So I'm going to substitute x as 0, and so that's going to give me -1. So 0, -1 should be an open circle right here. But that open circle gets filled in by the closed circle at this other portion. And so this is a line with a slope of 2. So I'm going to go up 2 and right 1, up 2 and right 1, up 2 and right 1, all the way up until x is 5. Up 2 and right 1, up 2 and right 1. And so this is going to be a closed circle. So when x is 5, this gives me 9. So now we have this chunk right here. And now this is a horizontal line. Anytime you just see a constant like that, that's a horizontal line. So we have a horizontal line with an open circle at 5, 3. And then this is just going to go to the right forever. Okay. So this actually has a domain of all real numbers, but the range is going from -1 up to +infinity. Okay, if x is -2, we're going to use this chunk. So -2 squared minus 1, that's 3. If x is 0, we're going to use this chunk again. So that's going to be -1. And if x is 5, we're going to use this chunk, which is 9. Okay, so now let's take a look at this one. We have two quadratics. So let's take a look at the endpoint. If x is 0, this is 0. So we have a closed circle at 0, 0. Now for all the values less than 0, let's just pick some numbers. Well, if x is -1, we have 1, because -1 squared is 1. And we'll have 2, 4, and 3, 9. So we've got ourselves a graph that looks like that. Okay. Oops, I don't want to do that. All right, so now let's take a look at this. If x is 0, what is this chunk? Well, that's going to be 0 squared is 0 plus 4 is 4. So 0, 4 is going to be an open circle. Okay, so if x is 1, well, that's 1 squared is 1, but then I'm going to make it negative. So it's -1 plus 4, which is 3. So 1, 3. Now let's pick a couple more numbers. If x is 2, we have 4. This makes it -4 plus 4 is 0. So 2, 0. And let's do one more. If x is 3, we have 3 squared is 9. This makes it -9. -9 plus 4 is -5. So we're down here. So this is going to look like that. All right, so at -4, we're going to use this chunk. So that's 16. At 0, we're going to use this chunk again. So that's 0. And at 3, we're going to use this chunk. And that's -9, that's -5. All right, so now let's evaluate the difference quotient. So first we want to evaluate f of x plus h. So we're going to replace all the x's with x plus h. So we have x plus h squared minus 13 minus, and then we're going to subtract this whole thing right here. So x squared minus 13. So if we square this binomial, we'll end up with, and this is all over h. So if I square this binomial, we'll end up with x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. And we have this minus 13. I'm going to distribute the negative. So we have negative x squared, and negative 13 is plus 13. And that's all over h. Okay, now we'll get some cancellations. The x squareds will cross out, and the 13 and the negative 13 will cross out. So what we're left with is 2xh plus h squared all over h. Now, this is the same as saying 2xh over h plus h squared over h. And so now we'll get some more cancellations. These h's will cancel out, and this h will cross out one of these h's. So we'll end up with 2x plus h. Okay, let's do this one. Again, we're going to replace all of the x's with x plus h. So x plus h squared minus 5 times x plus h plus 3. That's this. Now we're going to subtract the whole function. X squared minus 5x plus 3. And this is all over h. Okay, so if I square this binomial, again, we'll end up with x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. I'll distribute this negative 5 minus 5x minus 5h plus 3. And then I'll distribute this negative. Minus x squared plus 5x minus and minus make plus minus 3. And this is all over h. Now again, we'll get some cancellations. The x squareds will cancel. The 5x's will cancel. And the 3's will cancel. So we'll end up with, 2xh plus h squared minus 5h all over h. Okay, and so again, we can write each of these over h. So these h's will cross out, these h's will cross out, and one of these h's will cross out with this one. So we're left with 2x plus h minus 5. Okay, let's take a look at this one now. All right, so we'll evaluate this at x plus h. So this is 3x plus h squared plus 6x plus h minus 2 minus, and then we'll subtract this whole thing. 3x squared plus 6x minus 2 all over h. So if I square this binomial, I'm going to have this 3 out in front. So we'll have 3 times x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. Now I'm going to distribute this 6. So this is plus 6x plus 6h minus 2, and then I'll distribute this negative. Minus 3x squared minus 6x plus 2. Oh, this is getting long. Okay, so now we can distribute this 3. So 3x squared plus 6xh plus 3h squared plus 6x plus 6h minus 2 minus 3x squared minus 6x plus 2 all over h. Now let's see what we can cancel out. 3x squareds will cancel out. The 6x's will cancel out. The 2 and the negative 2 will cancel out. Okay, so what do we have left? We have this over h, 6xh over h. I'm just doing these slightly differently, but they're all the same. Plus, I have this over h, 3h squared over h. And I have this over h, plus 6h over h. So now, these h's will cancel. This h will cross out one of these h's, and these h's will cancel. So what we're finally left with is 6x plus 3h plus 6. Ooh, all right, that was a fun one. And this one was short and sweet. Okay. If we'll evaluate x plus h, so we'll have minus 7 times x plus h plus 9 minus, and then we'll subtract the whole thing. Negative 7x plus 9, and that's all over h. Okay, let's distribute the negative 7. Negative 7x minus 7h plus 9, and we'll distribute this negative. Minus minus is plus 7x minus 9 all over h. Now what's going to cross out? The 7x's will cross out, and the 9's will cross out. And so what we're left with is negative 7h over h. The h's will cross out, and we're left with just negative 7. Okay, that's all.